Hello and welcome to Broadcasting Scotland's special report on the final day of the SNP Conference. So today is Monday the 29th of November and my name is Brian Liddy. So today at conference, to give you an idea of what's happened, so it was the 7th session this morning. There were 2 resolutions, which I'll go into in a moment, and there was one topical emergency resolution. Coming up after, or from here on in, at 11:45, the next item is going to be the SNP Annual Awards for 2021. And then scheduled for 6 minutes past 12 is Nicola Sturgeon, the First Minister's closing speech to conference, closing at 12:45. So we'll be going live to the SNP Annual Awards, but before they start, I'll just try and give you an idea of what happened today. So today, as I said, was the final day of the second SNP conference, the second one in 3 months this year. The emphasis today has been on climate emergency and what measures should be taken to avert it. And also it's ironic, I should at least say, that I think that what's going to happen is the First Minister's speech to conference, there's a good chance it's going to be upstaged by her own press briefing on the new Omicron variant of the virus. But going back to what conference covered today was the conference is that the emphasis is on climate and emergency change and what measures should be taken to avert it. They've asked for a roadmap to 2025 and to eradicate all imported energy made from fossil fuels. They would like a state-owned transport system linking all forms of transport and powered only by renewables, and an increased speed to zero emissions in private vehicles, and drastically reduce meat, dairy and... Sorry, I'll move on because we're running out of time. So the second resolution was, with 2 amendments, was passed overwhelmingly, and the other resolution of the day was about the preservation of inshore fisheries and habitats. So there's a countdown now, meaning that we're going to go back to conference live, and I'll see you again when we have a gap. Okay, so while we're waiting for Kirsten Oswald, I'll just say that one of the amendments was for the climate change resolution was to delete a sentence which read, "To stop prevaricating about what is practical or affordable and do whatever it takes to avert this disaster." Conference has voted to replace it with, "Conference resolves to support all positions on this issue agreed by the General Assembly of the United Nations." And there's Kirsten Oswald, so we'll go back to the SNP conference live.
On Scotland's share of the Bin Scotland Northern Ireland proposal passes overwhelmingly. And that takes us to the final topical and emergency resolution today, which is entitled Human Rights. And this resolution will be moved by Roger Mullen of Kirkcaldy Branch. So welcome to Roger.
Good afternoon, Conference. As I speak to you, I cannot be certain that 38-year-old citizen journalist Zhang Zhang is still alive. As a former lawyer and young journalist, she was one of the first to report on the COVID-19 outbreak in Wuhan. She is now languishing in jail and on hunger strike. I am moving this resolution to allow the SNP to add its voice to calls in recent days from the United Nations, Amnesty International, the European Union and others for the immediate and unconditional release of Zhang and to make urgent life-saving medical care available to her. Zhang is one of 4 citizen journalists jailed in China for the crime of, and I quote, "picking quarrels and provoking trouble," unquote. A crime of picking quarrels for sharing much needed information at the early stages of a global pandemic. As a citizen journalist, she had traveled to Wuhan in February 2020 to report on what was happening at the COVID-19 epicentre. She questioned the authorities' handling of the outbreak in her smartphone videos, and she was not alone in doing so. As Conference will be well aware, transparency about the pandemic, its causes, its mutations, its effects, is a key to building the knowledge we all need to respond appropriately. In passing, I want to pay tribute to the South African authorities for their willingness to be open and share information with the world as soon as they detected the new Omicron strain of COVID-19. Such openness and transparency is both welcome and essential. However, for Zhang, rather than being respected as a young citizen journalist, she was detained and sentenced to 4 years imprisonment. She is on hunger strike in response, and her family have said she is close to death. On humanitarian grounds alone, she should be immediately released and cared for. The United Nations has called for her release, and UN spokeswoman Marta Hurtado has pointed out that the free flow of relevant information is of particular importance in the early stages of crisis situations such as public health emergencies. Zhang was serving the wider public good. She was sharing information that should be shared in the midst of a public health crisis. She deserves support from all of humanity. Conference, let us add our voice to calls for her immediate and unconditional release before it is too late. I commend the resolution to Conference.
Thank you very much, Roger. And Roger was the final speaker on this resolution, which has been formally seconded by Stuart MacDonald MP. So we will now move on to vote. So on the topical and emergency resolution entitled Human Rights, please vote now.
And hello, so we're back now. This is an emergency resolution on human rights. So Roger Mullen has put forward a resolution that we should support a Chinese journalist called Xian, who is on hunger strike and in prison in China. It's been getting quite a lot of press in America and the United Nations and Britain with calls to support for that journalist to be released. Because she was covering the virus and releasing information that in Wuhan that the government didn't want to, events in Wuhan that the government didn't want covered in the press. So, I'm just trying to make sense of. So the next item that's going to be coming up is going to be the First Minister's speech. Oh, yeah, I'm sorry. The voice in my ear is reminding me that we're running a little bit late with conference, and so it's not the First Minister's speech next. It's going to be the awards followed by the First Minister's speech. But while we've got a moment or two before Kirsten Oswald returns, so it's going to be an interesting day today, I think, with the First Minister's speech, which has been scheduled obviously for a long time. And then earlier today, there was a press briefing about the Omicron variant, which has found its way into Scotland with 6 new cases reported. So as I was saying earlier, I think there's a good chance that the First Minister's closing speech to conference is going to be upstaged by her press by her press briefing today. We'll be covering that later tonight on Scotland at 7 here on Broadcasting Scotland, so I'm not going to say too much about that today. We're going to concentrate here on whatever materialises from the First Minister's speech. I've got a press release here about the First Minister's speech, which says that their expectation is that today she'll use her keynote conference address to urge people across Scotland to redouble their efforts to prevent the spread of COVID-19, and that the government's first priority must be to steer Scotland safely through the winter months. She's going to ask the part of the message here in the press release is that there's a quote which says that, to be frank, the First Minister thinks that we were in a much better position now than she thought we might be look at a few months ago. But of course that might all change today with the emergence of the Omicron variant. So in fact, I don't think, we're not even sure if the prepared recorded speech that the First Minister probably already has in the can is maybe going to be used. We wonder if maybe she's going to do something live, which is going to take account of the Omicron. We'll see. We'll find out very shortly. So we're just waiting for conference to come in live again, and so here we go. It's 5 seconds now. So there's, before we go back live to Kirsten Oswald. Any second now. Yeah, they're probably just collating the numbers from the previous vote on the previous resolution, which was an emergency resolution on human rights, specifically for a Chinese journalist who is imprisoned at the moment. Abuses against... here we go.
The topical and emergency resolution entitled Human Rights passes overwhelmingly by 378 votes to 4. And that takes us to a lovely part of Annual National Conference as we bring you the SNP Awards.
A very warm welcome to everyone logged in for this part of conference, which celebrates the achievement not just of our outstanding award winners, but of everyone who is working so hard for the cause of independence and for our party. I speak virtually at the moment to lots of branches and constituencies, and I know that the SNP is full of people whose dedication and commitment is an inspiration and an example to us all. These are the people who by word and deed are always going the extra mile to make sure that Scotland chooses a better future, and it's a great privilege to have the chance, by honouring just a few of them just now, to honour all who do so day in and day out in every part of the country. So thanks for joining me and our sponsors, Community Wind Power Scotland, for the SNP's annual awards for 2021. This ceremony is of course a highlight of our calendar, and we and Community Wind Power, who were delighted to have as our sponsors yet again, were determined that it was going to happen, no matter the difficulties and the necessary restrictions. Community Wind Power is of course at the forefront of wind energy, with over 1 gigawatt built, under construction and in development. As renewable energy specialists, they are leaders in the identification, design, development, construction and operation of onshore wind energy projects. They are also an example of what Scotland needs as we move towards our greener future. So please extend the warmest of SNP welcomes to our sponsors, Community Wind Power Scotland, as they take us through this year's awards and introduce us to the award winners themselves.
Hello and welcome everyone to the SNP Annual Awards 2021. I do hope that everyone is well and has managed to get back into some sort of normality during this challenging year. However, we are delighted to be supporting the awards again this year to celebrate and acknowledge the great achievements of the SNP members. We are ready to announce the awards and our teams are poised at our wind farms around Scotland. But I wanted a moment of your time to reinforce the climate emergency that we are all facing. Scotland is showing the way with a world-leading carbon reduction target, which other countries are now following. COP26 showed us there was still much to do in the global fight against climate change, and we at Community Wind Power are proud to play a modest but important part in that, with our 8 operational wind farms in Scotland, which now power the equivalent of around 1.5 million homes each and every year. We are particularly proud of our most recent project, Aikengal 2A Community Wind Farm, which, despite being constructed and commissioned during the challenging period, has now started to deliver clean, green energy for Scotland. This renewable energy project provided employment and inward investment in the local area, while other projects stalled due to the pandemic. We have also continued to deliver our community benefit funds to our host communities, and this year saw our total donations exceed £6 million. We have supported legacy projects in Abbot St Bathans with a new community hall being built, and in Copath, where a community hub and shop have been created. However, please remember the fight against climate change is still ongoing, and we can all play our part. Be proud that Scotland is leading by example with one of the most ambitious net zero targets in the world. But remember, there is still much to do and many difficult decisions to be made that will benefit each one of us in the future as we push towards net zero and keeping the planet safe. Thank you, and over to our teams at the wind farms.
Hello, I'm Tom Downey, Operations Supervisor for Millerhill and Wardlawwood Community Wind Farms. High up on the hills above Dalry and overlooking the beautiful Ayrshire coast, Wardlawwood provides clean energy for distillers Edgington, producers of the famous Macallan whisky. We are delighted to be part of the SNP Annual Awards 2021 and pleased to announce the SNP Activist of the Year Award. This activist has been party member for 55 years, where their unrivalled enthusiasm and support is legendary within the party. The winner of the SNP Activist of the Year Award 2021 is Ian Douglas, Aries branch. Congratulations, Ian, well done.
I would like to thank the members who put my name forward for this award. I do not know who you are. I joined in 1966 during George Leslie's Pollock campaign and was a full-time worker in the 1967 Hamilton campaign, running the loudspeaker, My Car. This year it's been a back office task producing thousands of full colour printed letters and running Activate. Thank you for this honour.
Hi there, and a windy welcome to Aikengal Wind Farm. It's been a busy year here on the wind farm, but I'm glad to say we've completed our third wind farm here on the East Coast, working alongside our Scottish partners to deliver cleaner, greener electricity for Scotland. We're delighted to be involved and pleased to announce this year's SNP Branch of the Year, having had a new MSP and an MP elected within 11 days of each other. Airdrie and Shotts branch. Well done, Airdrie and Shotts.
Wow, this is fantastic. Thank you so much to those of you who chose the Airdrie and Shotts branch as the SNP's branch of the year this year. It's a fantastic achievement for our branch. We've had a cracking year winning both the Scottish parliamentary election and of course the Westminster by-election as well, and this is, you know, a real credit to the amazing campaigners that we have within the branch. And you know, I've been touring around virtually the SNP branches across Scotland as part of the Social Justice and Fairness Commission report tour, if you like, and I've been able to see some phenomenal work that is going on across the SNP, across Scotland, and so for the Airdrie and Shotts branch to be recognised with this award really is just so special, and I'm so grateful. On behalf of the branch, thank you very much indeed.
Hello again, this time from Aikengal 2A Community Wind Farm. This is our newest wind farm and it utilises the most up-to-date design and technology to transform wind power into electrical energy. These 19 turbines will play their part in helping Scotland achieve its 2045 net zero target. We're delighted to be part of the SNP Annual Awards once again and very pleased to announce that the winner of the SNP Councillor of the Year is Councillor Heather Anderson of the Scottish Borders Council. Well done. Well done. Congratulations.
Thank you. When HQ phoned me about this award, I asked them to check that they had the right Heather Anderson. There are a few Heather Andersons in the SNP, and I'm very chuffed that in this instance I was the right one. I am so honoured to receive this award. I spend a lot of my life with SNP councillors. I know how amazing they are, how hard they work, how committed they are to our cause and their communities. It's never too late in the evening to phone them, and there's rarely a day when they're not working. So this is for all of us who go above and beyond, and I'm so proud to be this year's winner. Thank you very much.
Hello again from Aikengall Community Wind Farm. This year, on top of all our other projects, we've been able to complete 2 community projects in Colburn's Path and Abbey St Bathams in the form of a new hub and shop and a new community hall. We're very proud to support the local community on these projects. Now to the award. We are delighted to announce that the winner of Parliamentarian of the Year for 2021 is Anam Kaiser for Adrian Shots. Well done, congratulations.
I'm absolutely delighted to accept this award as SNP Parliamentarian of the Year. It was a lovely surprise, and so thank you so much to everyone who nominated me. I am looking forward to just continuing the good fight down in Westminster, holding the Conservative government to account for their draconian bills such as the anti-refugee bill and their policies that hit the most vulnerable in society, like the cut in universal credit, and of course fighting and continuing the campaign for Scottish independence. And thank you once again so much, and I hope everyone's enjoying conference.
Good evening, I'm Paul McLennan, the MSP for East Lothian. I'm delighted to be here tonight to present the Lifetime Achievement Award. I'm here at Aikengall Wind Farm in my constituency. It produces 190 megawatts with 54 turbines. I'm delighted to present the award on behalf of Community Wind Power, who have worked with many projects in my constituency over a number of years. The winner for this award was in the Scottish Parliament from 1999 to 2021, holding many ministerial and Cabinet Secretary posts. Her last role was that of Cabinet Secretary for Environment and Climate Change. In that time she made Scotland a world leader in tackling climate change. I'm delighted to announce the winner of the Lifetime Achievement Award is Rosanna Cunningham.
This is absolutely surreal. I can hardly believe that the 15-year-old girl that wrote to the SNP over half a century ago is standing here receiving this award. I thank everybody enormously for this. I can hardly believe it. And I'm looking forward to the SNP's own Lifetime Achievement Award when we win independence for Scotland.
Hello again. It's great to see the people's positive reactions to receiving those awards. It's wonderful to see their efforts rewarded. Congratulations to all those who received an award, and also to the respective teams who will, no doubt, have been working hard in the background. Thank you also to our team at Community Wind Power for all their hard work and braving those elements in Scotland. However, one final reminder. Please remember the fight against climate change. We can all play our part. I will now hand over to the First Minister and Party Leader, Nicola Sturgeon, MSP, for an announcement about the Special Recognition Awards. First Minister.
A very special and massive thank you to our sponsors, Community Wind Power, and huge congratulations to Ian, Heather, Anam, Rosanna, and members of Airdrie and Shotts for all your incredible work and dedication to the cause. It's my real honour and privilege to announce our Special Recognition Award for 2021. This year, this award goes to 2 very, very special people, sadly posthumously. This award is going firstly to Jim Lynch, the editor of the Scots Independent, somebody who gave so much over so many years to our cause and who is so hugely missed. And secondly, to the irrepressible Callum Cashley, an activist known to many of us. Again, somebody who brought so much to the independence cause. Jim and Callum will always be missed, but this award goes to them with our thanks, our gratitude and our love.
Hi, I just want to say thanks very much on behalf of my family, particularly my mum, to everyone who's been involved in giving Dad this award. He'd really have appreciated it, especially from all the people he knew over the years in the SNP. Thanks very much.
Hello, I'm Laura, Callum's wife, and if you hear any noises in the background, that'll be our daughter, Rosa. Pretty overwhelmed to accept this award today on Callum's behalf. Callum dedicated so much of his life to the cause of independence. I think he delivered his first leaflet as a primary school kid, so it's pretty touching to receive this award today. And of course, all of Callum's campaigning was carried out within the SNP family. And I use the word family because the support we received from the party both during Callum's illness and after his death has been pretty exceptional, from letters, cards, from activists throughout the country, as well as practical help. And here from SNP friends in Edinburgh and Leith, you carried us through a very testing time. So thank you for that, and thank you for acknowledging Callum's contribution. We miss him all the time, but it's really nice to have this reminder of his work for Scotland. And here's Rosa. I'm going to say hello, darling. Yeah?
And we'll be back next year, 2022, with more inspirational award winners. I can announce today that we will have a new category, Staffer of the Year, in memory of the one and only Callum Cashley. And we'll be dedicating Activist of the Year to the wonderful John Clark. Both Callum and John are hugely missed. Until then, happy campaigning. We have independence to win. Let's get on and do that.
That was fantastic to see. And now, conference, please welcome our party leader and First Minister of Scotland, Nicola Sturgeon, MSP.
Good afternoon. Welcome to the SNP's annual conference, an occasion much enjoyed by party members across the country. Sadly, of course, we are meeting online again. Now, given current circumstances, this is sensible, but I really hope in spring we'll be together in person. Our debates and discussions, if not always the conference karaoke, are much better when we meet up, and I can't wait to see all of you again. Of course, being forced to take a political conference online is a mere inconvenience compared to the sacrifices made by so many over these past 2 years. Life today is much more normal than it was when I spoke to you a year ago. We have come so far, and while it has not been easy, a spirit of solidarity with and compassion for each other has helped us through. Now, as the emergence of the new Omicron variant has reminded us, we must harness that spirit again as we prepare for a winter that might be tougher than most of us have ever experienced. In recent weeks, we have had much in Scotland to feel thankful for. Compared to many countries across Europe, COVID cases here have been stable. Indeed, they have been declining slightly. To be frank, that is a much better position than I had dared hope for a couple of months ago. But there are big and very real challenges ahead over the winter months. Cases are rising in countries all around us. We know that colder weather, forcing us indoors, coupled with festive socialising, will create increased opportunities for the virus to spread. And most seriously of all, the Omicron variant is causing profound concern here and across the world. So we must not drop our guard. This is a time to be more vigilant, not less. In the past few days, the new variant has led the Scottish Government to impose tighter restrictions again at our borders. A number of countries have been added to the travel red list. Travellers from these countries must go into managed quarantine. And we are asking all travellers, no matter where they are travelling from, to isolate until they get a negative result from a PCR test that they must do on day 2 after their arrival. We are also asking close contacts of any confirmed cases of Omicron to isolate. That none of this was even contemplated just a few days ago is a reminder again of how fast this virus can move and change. We must, all of us therefore, redouble our efforts to stop it in its tracks. The good news is that we know how to do that. We have done it before. So today, before I talk to you about politics, I want to ask again for your help. Over these next weeks of winter, we need to pull together and look after each other. I promise that the government will do our job. That means getting all of you who are eligible vaccinated with boosters as fast as possible. Thanks to teams across the country, Scotland is already the most vaccinated part of the UK, but we will not let up. Instead, we are working to speed up. And while I still hope this will not be necessary, if difficult decisions do need to be made to keep us safe, we will not shy away from taking them. Steering the country through this winter is my priority. It is my duty. But no government can fight a virus alone. We all need to play our part. That was true before the detection of Omicron, and it is even more so now. If all of us increase our compliance with the protections already in place, we will help slow transmission. So I'm asking everyone to please take the time now to think afresh about the basic steps you can take to keep yourself, your loved ones and the country safe. Wear a face covering in indoor public places. Keep following hygiene advice. Wash your hands and surfaces. Open windows if you have people round. Ventilation really helps. Work from home if possible. And please, please, if you haven't done so already, get every dose of vaccine you are eligible for, including flu. I know there is a concern that the vaccines might be less effective against Omicron than against other variants. We don't know yet if that's the case. But even if it is, getting vaccinated will still matter. Less effective does not mean ineffective. You will still be much more protected with vaccines than you will be without. So if you could be fully vaccinated right now and you have chosen not to be, you are putting your own life at risk. Now you may say that's your choice, though it is one I really struggle to understand. But it's not just your own life you are risking. You could be risking the life of everyone you come into contact with. Vaccines save lives. And don't just take my word for that. A World Health Organization study published last week demonstrates that life-saving power. Hundreds of thousands of people across the world who would otherwise be dead from COVID are alive today only because of vaccines. Here's what the WHO said about us. In countries like Scotland, where vaccination rollout was early and uptake was high, a larger share of lives were saved. It found that in Scotland, without vaccines, around 32,000 people over the age of 60 would have died from COVID this year. 86% of these deaths were prevented by vaccines. That's 27,000 people alive today who would not be if we had no vaccines. Now, for all I know, that might include my mum and dad, or yours, or indeed many of you. So for goodness sake, get vaccinated with your first, second, and if eligible, your third and booster doses as soon as you can. If you don't do it for your own sake, though you really should, do it for those you love. Being vaccinated is the most precious gift we can give this Christmas. But there is one more really important festive effort I am asking everyone to make. And once again, the emergence of Omicron makes this even more vital. Lots of people with COVID don't have symptoms. They might never know they have the virus, and so they spread it inadvertently. That's why we've been asking everyone to test with lateral flow devices twice a week. But from now, through the festive period, we are asking you to test much more. Please, even if you are feeling fine, test yourself on each and every occasion you intend to mix with people from outside your own household. That means before you go to the pub or to a restaurant or to someone's house or even to a shopping centre. And if the test shows up positive, do not go. Instead, get a confirmatory PCR test and self-isolate until you get the result of that. If you don't have a supply of tests, order them now through NHS Inform or pick them up from a local pharmacy or test centre. They are free, so get as many as you need and keep your supply topped up. If we all do this, we will slow down the spread and we will maximise our chances, not just of a more normal Christmas, but of a safer Christmas too. And let's all hope a much brighter new year. I talked earlier about the government's responsibility in leading the fight against this virus. It is a solemn duty. But I am all too aware that the heaviest burden in tackling the virus has been carried by those working in our NHS and in social care. If we all follow the advice on fighting COVID, we will be helping them as well as ourselves. That really matters. Health and care services are under more pressure now than ever before. The staff who care for us in our times of need are exhausted, physically and in many cases emotionally. Words will never ever adequately express my gratitude to them. But in any event, words are not enough. I'm proud that NHS staff in Scotland have been awarded the highest pay rise in the UK and that we have promised to increase investment in the NHS, already at record levels, by a further 20% over this term of Parliament. I can confirm today that our budget on the 9th of December will deliver a significant down payment on that commitment. In the years ahead, this extra funding will help build new capacity in the NHS and improve the way care is delivered through, for example, a network of elective treatment centres. And at the heart of our plans for reform is the establishment of a national care service. Just as the National Health Service became in the aftermath of the Second World War, this new National Care Service, if we get it right, as we must, will be a fitting legacy from the trauma of COVID. So our plans to build and secure a sustainable future for our health and care services are bold and rightly so. And to help right now, we have committed an additional £300 million for winter support. This money is supporting the immediate recruitment of 1,000 extra NHS workers. It is helping increase the pay of social care staff, giving those earning the living wage a rise of over 5%. And it is funding more care home places and care at home packages to ensure that older people don't languish in hospital when they would be better cared for elsewhere, and in the process free up hospital beds for those who do need them. The front line of the NHS is, of course, so often primary care and general practice. Good access to GPs and other primary care services is essential for patients, but it also helps reduce unnecessary pressure on hospitals. I know how hard GPs and practice staff are working right now. Face-to-face appointments are resuming, although phone and video consultations will continue to play an important part in any modern healthcare system. And we know demand is increasing due to the direct impact of the pandemic and the backlogs caused by lockdown. So GPs and those who support them are working overtime to meet patient needs. I want to thank them for all they do. Of course, we must do more than say thank you, and we will. That's why I can announce today funding of £30 million to help GPs further increase primary care services in their communities. GPs will be able to use this funding, which will be delivered in December and April in 2 equal instalments, in ways that they judge will deliver the greatest impact for patients. That might be through extra GP sessions or additional practice nurse time. In short, it will allow practices to target investment where it is most needed to improve access to primary care and help ensure patients get the care they need as close to home as possible. Tackling the pandemic, supporting and protecting the NHS and social care. These duties will be the focus of the Scottish Government each and every single day as we navigate this winter and beyond. That is what people across Scotland expect, having placed their trust in us once again to govern and lead our country. However, as we emerge from the darkness of winter into what we all hope will be a brighter spring, with COVID more firmly in the rearview mirror, it will be time then to look ahead with optimism and consider the kind of country we want to rebuild. We should embrace that opportunity with relish. I certainly do. Now, as you know, I've just marked 7 years as First Minister. In some ways, I find it impossible to believe that so much time has passed. But then, of course, I look in the mirror and see the evidence of what I'm sorry to say seems much more than 7 years. Being elected to lead this country is a privilege, and it is a serious responsibility. 7 months ago, the people of Scotland gave me and all of us in the SNP a job to do when they re-elected us so emphatically. They voted for us in historically high numbers, and they told us to get on with the job. I intend to repay that trust, to lead Scotland not just through COVID, but into and through the process of recovery and renewal. The duty and responsibility of being First Minister weighs heavily on me every single day, as it should. But it is not a job I do out of duty alone. I do it because I relish the opportunities that lie ahead for Scotland. And I know that to harness these opportunities, Scotland needs a government like ours with ambition, aspiration, and real confidence in this country. We already have a track record of delivery. We are laying the foundations for a stronger future. When people ask me what I'm proudest of so far in my time as First Minister, I always point to our transformational, and I use that word deliberately, our transformational support for children. Today, for example, we've announced that the 200,000th baby box has been delivered in Scotland. A practical, tangible and powerful manifestation of our commitment to give every child, no matter their family circumstances, an equal start in life. And then there's the doubling, yes, the doubling of state-funded early years education and childcare. Every 3 and 4-year-old and 2-year-olds from the most vulnerable backgrounds are now entitled to the same number of hours in early years settings as older children get in school. This policy saves parents thousands of pounds a year, but much, much more importantly, it gives children the best start in education. In my very first conference speech as SNP leader, I said that this would be the most important infrastructure investment of my first full term as First Minister. And in August this year, we marked its delivery. We have also created from scratch a new social security system. It has measures to tackle child poverty, the root cause of the poverty-related attainment gap in education, at its very heart. All of this is underpinned by a new income tax system, just like Social Security Scotland, built entirely from scratch and with the progressive principle embedded from the outset. And also, with an eye to the future, we have set up the new Scottish National Investment Bank. This is the first development bank of its kind anywhere in the UK, and it is already making investments to drive our journey to net zero and build a more sustainable future for this and future generations. Now, we don't see the full benefits of transformational policies like this overnight, but they and many like them are already changing the future of tens of thousands of children and of this country as a whole. So we have much to be proud of, but we have so much more still to do. It is that combination of delivery and ambition that drives the SNP's success. The fact is, governments don't get re-elected, and certainly not with the level of support we won in May, unless we have improved people's lives and offer a clear and credible vision of what is possible for the future. Most of our opponents seem utterly incapable of accepting the basic point that our success is hard-earned. It is not an accident or a fluke. So they end up dismissing as irrelevant the choices voters have made. Or even worse, as with the current assault on devolution, they seek to overturn those choices. They act like they think the ambitions of people across Scotland have got out of hand and need to be reined in by those who know better. The SNP will not let that happen. We're not here to see the aspirations of people in Scotland reined in or diminished. We want to raise those ambitions ever higher. We dedicate ourselves to that every day. And we recognise that working with others who also want to move Scotland forward will help us all achieve more. That's why we struck a cooperation agreement with the Scottish Green Party. Putting our differences aside to cooperate where we agree won't always be comfortable, either for us or the Greens, but it is not meant to be. Forcing each other out of our comfort zones so we can raise the bar of achievement higher is the whole point. In my view, this kind of collaborative working is exactly what most people want. But given the challenges all countries face, it is also what we need. Scotland is about to enter a new world, a world of possibility, but also of urgency. I hope soon a post-pandemic world, and certainly a world we must adapt to ensure that our planet remains habitable in the years, decades and centuries to come. We can't escape these challenges, and nor should we want to. Inherent in them are massive opportunities just waiting to be grasped. The big question for Scotland is how we best equip ourselves to do this and ensure that the ambitions of all those who live here can be realised in this new world. These ambitions are not unreasonable, nor are they out of reach. A higher standard of living, good jobs for the future, a clean environment, better health, sustainable public services. And for Scotland as a whole, the ability to harness our vast resources in line with our own priorities and values and contribute as an equal partner to building a better world. To meet those ambitions in this new world, we must lay secure foundations on which a better country can be built. That is what the SNP is endeavouring to do. In this task, we are working in partnership as far as we can. But this current Westminster government is not a willing partner. Instead of helping to lay those foundations, it is undermining them. And let us be clear about this. This UK government is not just seeking to block Scottish democracy and deny Scotland the choice of moving forward to independence. That would be bad enough. But worse than just standing in the way of progress, it is trying to force Scottish democracy into reverse. Make no mistake about this. Boris Johnson's government is actively eroding the power of our democratically elected Scottish Parliament. It has already transferred funding from the Scottish Parliament to Westminster. It has torn up the convention that the UK Parliament should not pass laws in devolved policy areas without Holyrood consent. And it has passed a new law, the Internal Market Act, that the Labour First Minister of Wales has called, and I quote, a smash and grab on the devolution settlement. Now this crystallises the choice Scotland faces. If we don't choose to move our Parliament forward and make it stronger with independence, the Tories will drag it backwards and make it weaker. This assault on the Scottish Parliament is of course reflected in the Tories' wider disdain for democracy. Whether it is threatening to rip up anti-lobbying rules when one of its own was found guilty, or restricting the right to judicial review, or undermining the independence of the Electoral Commission, the message is clear. Whenever the checks and balances of democracy get in its way, this UK government will try to overturn them. That is dangerous. And don't just take my word for that. Ken Clarke, a former very senior Tory cabinet minister, has warned quite extraordinarily that the UK is dangerously close to becoming an elected dictatorship. Now, during the run-up to the independence referendum in 2014, the head of the No campaign then dismissed the idea of Boris Johnson becoming Prime Minister as a scare story. We've been reminded over these past few weeks, and in so many different ways, just why anti-independence leaders were so keen to rubbish the prospect of Boris Johnson ever entering Downing Street. The reality of it has been everything many people back then feared. But it's not just about him as an individual. The much bigger problem is a Westminster system that enables someone like him to become Prime Minister in the first place. That is not a secure foundation on which Scotland can build a better future. Our future must be built on a platform of democracy, fairness and economic prosperity. That's what we are seeking to build now, and it is why we want Scotland to become independent. In the here and now, as well as working in partnership with the Greens inside the Holyrood Chamber, we're seeking to extend participation in democratic decision-making outside it too. We are pioneering citizens' assemblies and will soon establish one for under 16s, so that the generation who will live with the impact of decisions we take now are more involved in making them. This cooperative, inclusive approach to politics offers a more secure basis from which to move a country forward. Just as our foundation must be democratic, so too must fairness permeate every stone. A fairer, more equal society isn't just morally right, although it is. Evidence shows that the most successful independent countries of Scotland's size are also more equal. A sense of social cohesion and solidarity provides the basis for long-term prosperity. The Tory government's decision last month to cut universal credit by £20 a week could not be further removed from that ideal. That decision, especially at a time of price inflation and tax rises, was cruel and shocking. It was condemned by each of the UK Children's Commissioners, by the Social Security Committees of all 4 UK Parliaments, by all 3 devolved governments, by countless campaigners, and even by former Conservative cabinet ministers. But the cut went ahead regardless, and in Scotland it will push 60,000 families and 20,000 children into poverty. The Scottish Government is trying to take a very different approach. We are determined to lift children out of poverty. Of the £2 billion a year that the Scottish Government invests to support people on low incomes, over 670 million is already targeted at children. Through the range of new payments delivered by Social Security Scotland, low-income families receive in the early years of each child's life £5,000 of additional financial support. At the heart of this is the Scottish Child Payment, the only payment of its kind anywhere in the UK, designed solely to lift children out of poverty and give them better lives. The Scottish Child Payment currently provides low-income families with £10 per week for every child under age 6. Over 105,000 children are already benefiting. Next year it will be extended to all children in low-income families under the age of 16. Now, at the election, we committed to doubling the payment to £20 per child per week within this term of Parliament. Our cooperation agreement with the Greens committed us to achieving this as quickly as possible. I am very pleased, indeed proud, to announce today that our budget on the 9th of December will fund the doubling of the Scottish Child Payment immediately from the start of the new financial year. The Scottish Child Payment will increase to £20 per child per week, 4 times the amount originally demanded by campaigners from April. That means the double payments will reach over 100,000 children under age 6 in just 4 months' time. And when we extend the Scottish Child Payment to all under 16s at the end of next year, over 400,000 children and their families will be eligible. This is, without doubt, the boldest and most ambitious anti-poverty measure anywhere in the UK. Now, delivering it isn't easy. It will involve hard choices elsewhere in our budget. But it is a choice that we in the SNP, in partnership with the Greens, are opting to make. Poverty scars too many childhoods. It deprives too many children of the chance to make the most of their education and enjoy life to the full. And it robs our country of far too much potential. Eradicating child poverty is essential if we are to build the strongest foundation for Scotland's future, and that is what we are determined to do. Democracy and fairness are key to building a better, stronger Scotland. So too is a strong, sustainable economy. Scotland is so blessed with natural economic advantages. We have unrivaled energy resources. We are at the cutting edge of the industries of the future and home to some of the world's best universities. Our food and drink industry is an extraordinary international success story. We are a highly skilled and educated people with a rich history of enterprise and innovation. Through the Scottish National Investment Bank, the National Manufacturing Institute and the Young Persons Guarantee, we are building for the future. But just as on child poverty, a UK government that Scotland did not vote for is undermining the strong foundations we are seeking to build. This UK government has taken Scotland out of the EU, out of the European single market and out of the customs union, all against the wishes of the majority who live here. The Brexit it has imposed upon us is already damaging our economy and restricting opportunities for our young people. All of that is bad enough, but there may well be much worse to come. The Tories appear to have embarked on permanent conflict with the European Union. Instead of building bridges, they are burning them. They are threatening to rip up the withdrawal agreement that Boris Johnson himself hailed as fantastic and oven ready. And in so doing, they risk a trade dispute with the EU that will set back our recovery from the pandemic and do untold damage to our economy. Now, this might suit a Tory party that sees EU bashing as a vote winner, but it would be a disaster for Scotland. Years or even decades of arguments with the EU is a recipe for instability and economic weakness. In the post-pandemic world, we will need more cooperation between independent countries, not less. And the only way for Scotland to build those relationships on a secure basis is through independence. Now, nowhere is cooperation more essential than in tackling the climate emergency. As a rich, developed nation, Scotland shares a responsibility for a climate crisis which is already wreaking havoc in some parts of the world. Just as we have helped cause the problem, Scotland has a moral duty to be part of the solution. And whether independent or not, Scotland with an SNP government will always show leadership on this most pressing of issues. That means leading by example, which we did and were recognised as doing throughout COP26. It means making the investments needed for our transition to net zero. Our forthcoming budget will set out the next steps we intend to take. It demands accelerating our move away from fossil fuels, but doing so in a fair way which protects the livelihoods of those working in oil and gas and secures a low-carbon energy supply. That's why we are establishing the North East Just Transition Fund. These transitions are not easy, but they demand leadership, urgency and rational decision making. And here again, we have a UK government that too often hinders rather than helps our progress. In the run-up to COP, the Tory government made two inexplicable decisions which passed none of these tests of leadership, urgency and reason, decisions which will undermine efforts to tackle the climate emergency. Firstly, it cut air passenger duty for short-haul flights within the UK. And second, it refused to give priority backing to the obvious site in the northeast of Scotland for carbon capture and storage. This is a decision that will cost Scotland jobs and make our journey to net zero even more difficult. It should be reversed. But we should not be reduced to pleading with a UK government to do the right thing. With independence, we won't have to. Friends, my task as First Minister, above all, is to do whatever I can to keep Scotland safe. That is my first duty, and during this pandemic, it is the heaviest duty imaginable. I will always seek to discharge my responsibilities as First Minister with energy and commitment and to the very best of my ability. But keeping a country safe is not just about the short term. It is also about building the strongest possible foundation on which to build our future. I defy anyone to look at the broken, corrupt, self-serving Westminster system that we are currently part of and conclude that it provides a secure basis for the future of Scotland. So I would not be discharging my duty to the people of Scotland if I did not seek to keep the promise on which we were elected, to offer the people of Scotland the choice of a better future through independence. Next year, COVID permitting, as we emerge from winter into spring, the campaign to persuade a majority of people in Scotland that our future will be more secure as an independent nation will resume in earnest. In the course of next year, I will initiate the process necessary to enable a referendum before the end of 2023. And just as importantly, our party will set out afresh the positive case for independence. We will outline the opportunities and advantages that independence will open up. The opportunity to repair the damage of COVID, including the fiscal challenges it has created for all countries, in a way that aligns with our values and priorities as a nation. To use our financial and human resources to tackle poverty and give young people a better life. To use our vast natural resources to help safeguard our planet and secure green jobs for the future. And to rejoin the European family of nations so that we can expand, not narrow, our horizons and grow our trade across the whole of the continent. We will also be candid about the challenges the transition to independence will present and set out clearly how we can and will overcome these. And then, friends, we will ask the people to decide. Now, what the UK government's response to this will be is not up to me, but my message to the Prime Minister is this. If you have any respect at all for democracy, and if you have any confidence whatsoever in your argument against independence, you too will let the people decide. Friends, let us make our case with confidence and with optimism. Often in Scotland, we talk about becoming independent as if it's something unusual, something that no country has ever done. The reality, of course, is very different. In the last 60 years or so, more than 100 countries have become independent. Very few, if any, of them have the resources and the advantages of Scotland. The fact is, independence is the normal state of affairs for countries the world over. The self-government it encapsulates is the building block for the progressive internationalism that we stand for. And for countries of Scotland's size, the simple truth is this: independence works. Our neighbours across northwest Europe are all wealthier than the UK, more equal than the UK, and have lower levels of poverty than the UK. With all the resources and talents we have available to us, I simply do not believe that Scotland can't match, perhaps even surpass, the success of Denmark, Norway, Ireland, Austria, and the many other prosperous independent countries that are all around us. I do believe, more than ever in this new world we are facing, that the best way to secure a better Scotland is to take our future into our own hands. An independent Scotland will be an outward-looking, welcoming nation, a country that celebrates diversity and works with others to shape a better world. We'll be a partner with our closest friends in the rest of the UK and an EU member committed to the values of equality, democracy and human dignity. For people today and for generations to come, that is a future worth standing up for. It is a future worth campaigning for, and it is a future worth winning. So let us put our shoulders to the wheel of winning and building that better independent Scotland. Thank you.
Thank you, Nicola. And I know I speak for all of us when I say thank you for your leadership. And with that conference, the 87th Annual National SNP Conference draws to a close. Thank you so much to our sign language interpreters and subtitlers, and thank you so much to our technical team for keeping everything going behind the scenes. I hope that you have all enjoyed it, and I look forward to seeing you all, hopefully in person, very soon.
Hello. That is the end of this second SNP conference of 2021. It's the 27th conference, I think, but the 8th. Moving on. Just a quick recap of before the First Minister's keynote speech, we had the SNP Annual Awards. Just so that we don't ignore the good work that those people have done. This is for people who are an inspiration to the independence movement and who go the extra mile. The awards are sponsored by Community Wind Power, and I must admit I felt a wee bit sorry for the two fellas that had recorded outdoors in a wind farm and they struggled to be heard above the wind and the noise sometimes of the turbines behind them, but they did okay. So the Activist of the Year was Ian Douglas, and the SNP branch of the year is Airdrie and Shotts. The Councillor of the Year is Heather Anderson. Parliamentarian of the Year is Anam Kaiser, MP, and the Lifetime Achievement Award went to Rosanna Cunningham. So congratulations to all of those. And then the First Minister then went on to, let me just channel Boris Johnson. So then the First Minister went on to give a special recognition award, two of those, one to Jim Lynch and one to Callum Cashley. Both of those were sadly posthumous, and the award to Callum Cashley was especially poignant as there was a short video by his wife and daughter Rosa to say thank you afterwards. Our thoughts go out to them. But yeah, so then it was time for the First Minister's speech, and that's usually the highlight of any conference, but perhaps the pandemic has taken the shine off of that this year. The SNP conference this year once again was completely conducted online and at a distance. I've seen a lot of criticism of that in social media. A lot of people saying that why don't the SNP have their conference in real time in a venue somewhere the way that other parties have this year. But perhaps with the emergence of the new Omicron variant, perhaps the SNP were wise to be cautious and perhaps made the right decision to keep it as virtual this year. The First Minister, I'll try not to keep you too much longer, but the First Minister started off with a call for everybody to try and keep themselves safe by continuing to carry out the using face coverings in public, social distancing, hand washing, ventilation indoors, and then most importantly of all, vaccination as a way to help prevent the virus spreading, especially with the new variant. And with a thought towards Christmas, she asked that we all carry out a lot more lateral flow tests. Even if we're going to meet friends in the pub, we should carry out a test. And if we test positive, then just don't go and seek a confirmatory PCR test. There was the usual standard fare, I suppose, for any conference speech. there was a call or a recognition of healthcare services in Scotland, acknowledgement that the SNP government has made sure that, those who work in the health service have the highest pay rise in the UK, and the SNP promised significant funding and investment, and so that we can have greater capacity with a difficult winter coming up ahead. And there was £300 million committed for extra winter support for care home and care at home, with the aim to free up hospital beds. There's also a package of £30 million promised to go to GPs to help clear the backlog due to COVID, and that money will be for practices to spend as they wish. There was also a call for to think about what kind of country do we want to build. The SNP government said that they were re-elected emphatically with historically high numbers. But the First Minister said that duty weighs heavily on her shoulders, but she relishes the challenges ahead, and and she wants to deliver the foundations of a stronger future for Scotland. She said that her proudest moment in previous governments was the work that she's done towards childcare. She referenced the baby box and the doubling of early years funding. There's more about childcare coming up later on with the announcement of new packages and new funding for children and families. But she then went on to talk about the new social security system and income tax system, which the SNP government had set up, which she described as progressive. There's the new National Investment Bank, which she said its benefits won't be seen overnight, but she hopes that will go on to become important in building a sustainable future for Scotland. She referenced that Scotland continues to vote for the SNP, and that's despite or perhaps because of a perceived threat to devolution from the Westminster government, especially the current Conservative Westminster government in Westminster. And she promised that the SNP will not let devolution be weakened by Westminster. She also praised the cooperation that the SNP have gone into with the Scottish Green Party, saying that collaboration is what is needed in today's world, and especially will be needed in a post-pandemic world. She then went on to say that Westminster and the current Conservative government is uncooperative, which is basically the opposite then of what she says is going to be needed if we're going to get out of the post-pandemic in a good state. The Conservative Party is actively eroding devolution, she said, and the message is clear that they will, that Westminster government will overturn any checks and balances that get in their way, more than a subtle reference to current accusations of cronyism and I'm trying to think what the stronger word is, corruption in Westminster today. She then referenced Boris Johnson specifically, saying that the Westminster system allows someone like him to become Prime Minister, and he represents why the Scottish National Party wants Scotland to be independent. And then perhaps one of the most important parts to her speech was following the recent cut by the Conservative government to universal credit by £20 a week. She described that as cruel and shocking, and which is going to put many tens of thousands of families and children in Scotland into poverty. So the SNP are doing their best to mitigate that with their new Scottish child payment, which is £10 a week for every child under 6. That's already in place, but she said that will be extended to children under 16 and it will be doubled to £20 a week, and that will be confirmed. Those Scottish child payments will be confirmed in the upcoming Scottish Government budget on the 9th of December. And then it was inevitable that at some point she would bring up Brexit, and the First Minister stated that Tories continue to work against the European Union, which is a disaster for Scotland, when really what we need is more cooperation if we're going to build a strong economy and sustainable future. Then another one of the main points I would say of the speech was following COP26, and the First Minister called for a fair transition to net zero, so that we could establish a just transition fund for that to happen. So 3 standout points from the First Minister's keynote speech: increased funding for children in Scotland, a fair transition to net zero for the carbon economy, and a commitment to initiate the process necessary to enable a referendum before the end of 2023, which I realise I haven't referenced that yet. So then, towards the end of the speech, in terms of independence and another independence referendum, the First Minister said, "In the course of next year, I will initiate the process necessary to enable a referendum before the end of 2023. And she issued a message for the Prime Minister, which was to let the people of Scotland decide. A recent guest on our Scotland at 7 programme said that she had heard that the word on the street was that there will be no more than that from the SNP government or the First Minister until the new referendum bill is passed in Holyrood, and that's we hope is going to happen in early next year. And once that has been established and is on the statute books, then there will be a major push. But certainly the First Minister there confirmed that next year she will initiate the process necessary to enable a referendum before the end of 23, which is the third of the standout points from the Minister's speech today. So I think I hope you've found that of some interest, and I hope it's made sense. Apologies if not. So tonight at Scotland at 7, Andrew Wilson will be looking at the First Minister's update on the new Omicron variant, which has appeared here in Scotland. So that's why we haven't really touched on it today. So we hope that you'll join us then. In the meantime, that's all from me. But before I go, I'll just say that please, as we always say, if you can support us, then please do so. If you already support us, then thank you. We cannot do what we do without your help. And if we would like to do more. And so if you could contribute to our crowdfunding, the address is on the screen below, then please do so. Even the smallest amount will be very much appreciated. So thank you for your time. Thank you for your interest. And that's all from me. So we'll see you all again soon. Bye-bye.